The parable of the prodigal son begins with these familiar words from the Gospel of Luke. There was a man who had two sons. The younger of them said to his father, "Father, give me a share of the wealth that will belong to me." So he divided his assets between them. And if we picture an idyllic scene where the father happily hands a suitcase full of money to his youngest son and sends him merrily on his way, we are not reading these opening verses correctly. There's something dark, something sinister happening here. It's a betrayal of love and trust. It is a permanent severing of familial bonds with no hope of reconciliation. What the youngest son is essentially saying to his father is, "You're dead to me. I have no use for you whatsoever." A few cultural clues might be helpful here if we're going to understand the emotional impact of the younger son's request. Kenneth Bailey is a biblical scholar who worked within Middle Eastern peasant culture for over 20 years. And with regard to the opening lines of this parable, he offers the following insight. For over 15 years, I have been asking people of all walks of life, from Morocco to India and from Turkey to Sudan, about the implications of a son's request for his inheritance while his father is still living. The answer has almost always been emphatically the same. The conversation runs as follows. Has anyone ever made such a request in your village? Never. Could anyone ever make such a request? Impossible. If anyone ever did, what would happen? The father would beat him, of course. Why? This request means he wants his father to die. He tells us further that there is no law or custom among the Jews or Arabs which entitles the son to share a share of the father's wealth while the father is still alive. So what we have going on in this parable is a betrayal of the highest order. It's about more than money. It's about a younger son who essentially disowns his father and says, "You're dead to me." Armed with this information, it might be tempting for us to sympathize with the father while distancing ourselves from the younger son. However, if we do this, we miss an opportunity to look at an aspect of our personalities we don't care to admit exists. It is the part of us that has said, "You're dead to me," to someone we love, or even a complete stranger. And this is a difficult and painful subject. And sometimes you need to know there are good reasons for us to walk away from a relationship, such as abuse, neglect, or trauma. And I've been there, so I sympathize with you, so that's not what I'm talking about here. However, there are bad reasons for doing so as well. We don't know the details of the younger son's story, and we can speculate for days about the kind of relationship he had with his father, but that's all it is, speculation. However, we do know our story. And if we can be honest with ourselves, I'm sure everyone who hears this can come up with an instance of when their words or actions conveyed the message, "You're dead to me." It happens when in a fit of anger, frustration, or fear, we hurl the most vile words we can at another person, trying to hurt them as deeply as possible. We want them to hurt like we hurt. Therefore, we say things and do things we deeply regret later, but the damage is done. We cannot take back our words or actions. We can only live with their consequences and try to build a new relationship bridge between us and the other person. We say "you're dead to me" every time we use a racial or homophobic or transphobic slur. We say "you're dead to me" when we turn our backs on someone who is in need. Our actions convey the message that they're simply not worthy of our time. We say "you're dead to me" when we refuse to consider another person's point of view or to empathize with their situation. We say "you're dead to me" when we are only thinking of ourselves and never stop to consider how the things we say and do impact other people. Perhaps we have more in common with the younger son than we may care to admit. Therefore, Jesus does not let us off the hook in this parable and asks us to try identifying with all three characters in the story. We must try to walk in the shoes of the younger son, if we are going to learn anything from this parable at all. So let's spend some time this week pondering the instances when our words and actions have said, "You're dead to me," to those around us. But the story is not finished yet. Let's take a moment to reflect on the Father. Can we feel his pain? Can we remember a time when someone we loved wounded us so deeply and so profoundly? How did we react? Did we get all Old Testament on them, claiming an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth? Or did we walk the higher road of Jesus, who told us to love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us? Did we try to wound them as hard as they wounded us? Or did we send them on their way with the hope that someday that which was broken can be repaired again? Well, the father in this story is one tough cookie. He honors his son's request and then lets him walk out the door. Again, we could speculate for days about why the father honored his son's request and how he felt about it, but it would only be speculation. We can, however, put ourselves in his place and try to recall a time in our lives when someone disowned us and we had to let them go. Did we quickly pack their bags, usher them out the front door, and make sure it was locked tightly and securely? Or did we try to convince them to stay, making sure the front door stayed unlocked and the light on the porch was burning brightly? Of course, I'm speaking both literally and metaphorically here. I'm asking us to go to what might be a painful place in our hearts and spirits and ask ourselves some really hard questions. The father in the parable let his son go, but I don't think he ever let him go from his heart. The boy who said, "You're dead to me," was not dead to his father. And this may be the most profound lesson we can learn from the opening verses of our parable. My friends, I hope we'll take the time this week to ponder some of the questions I've asked this morning. I hope we'll take the time to journey with the younger son and his father and see what wisdom they have to give us. It is my hope that this parable can help us to become better people and better followers of Jesus as we walk closely with the one who offers us new life instead of death. Amen.